Welcome back to season 2 of the RunDNA podcast. And we're going to jump right in with a topic where I'm going to challenge you a bit. I'm going to get you thinking about something that very few people do, or very people do well, that plays a huge role in athletes' performance as well as athlete injury. So I want you to listen to this episode. Love to hear your thoughts and feedback, but we're going to start right away, getting you to think a little bit outside of the box about what we should be really doing for our clients or as an athlete ourselves that really makes a huge impact on how we perform. So enjoy the show, and thanks for coming back for season 2. Hey everyone, welcome back to the RunDNA podcast. I'm Doug Adams, and we have a great show to kick off the next season. So thanks for you joining us after a little break here. And I've had some time to reflect on running while taking a little break over the summer and realized something about gait. Gait, whether it's running or walking gait, is one of the most functional ways that our body expresses its ability to move. There are few things that people do on a regular basis that expresses movement in the same way. Despite this importance of gait, very few people truly understand gait or look at it close enough to make an impact. So today we're going to dive into a topic that might surprise some of you: the importance of analyzing an athlete's walking gait. I know when we think about athletes, we tend to focus on the higher intensity movements like running, jumping, and sprinting. But what if I told you that one of the best places to start optimizing performance and preventing injuries is how you walk? The theme of the season at RunDNA podcast is going to be about treating the whole runner, whether that's focusing on finer movements like walking or jumping, or diving into strength and nutrition concepts. We really want to focus on all that it takes to get a runner healthy and performing at their best. If you have anything that you want to learn about this season, or topics you want to discuss, or guests you want to have on, please leave a comment or reach out to let us know. We'd love to hear from you about what would be most valuable for you. So now let's dive into today's topic. Walking is something we all do every day, but for athletes, it's more than just a means of getting from point A to point B. Walking is a foundational movement that can tell us a lot about how an athlete moves and whether or not they're a runner, soccer player, and even a swimmer. How you walk reveals a lot of the underlying biomechanical patterns that provides a lot of valuable information that may relate back to their sport. When we analyze an athlete's walking gait, we can easily identify imbalances, asymmetries, or inefficiencies that might not be obvious during some of the more complex movements like running or jumping. And these small issues, even if left unchecked for a short time, can lead to larger problems like overuse injuries, which are all too common in the athletic world. So I searched all over to find an article that links someone's walking mechanics to their running mechanics. And guess what? Couldn't find any article like that. And this is something I get asked a lot too as well. You know, if I change somebody's walking, can I get them to run better, or can we help them out? And from a theoretical standpoint, it makes sense that we can't find an article like this. What we know about the human body is that we possess unique motor patterns for the activities that we participate in. So the way we walk relies on one motor pattern. The way we run relies on a different motor pattern. Unless someone found an article that I couldn't, I would not suggest that we should expect that gait retraining for walking could change their running form. So why should we care about walking, especially for athletes? So everyone, I think, needs a walking gait analysis, but particularly when we're talking about athletes, we must consider that stress is stress. It's often what an athlete does before they ever step onto the field or the track that contributes to why they do or do not get injured when they participate. We do a lot of work with the military, and a topic of conversation that pretty much always comes up is ruck marching. What we know from peer-reviewed literature is that many running injuries occur because someone has multiple risk factors and a cumulative load leading into an activity. Then they participate to a degree that may exceed a structure's load capacity. So when a soldier goes for a run and gets injured, that has a lot to do with how much marching and rucking they've been doing before they ever went on the run. The running was just a straw that broke the camel's back. Put in another analogy for him that comes from some of our certified running gait analyst courses, we're a lot like a car. If our tank is half to empty and we have worn out tires, we're likely to break down much faster than if we are coming into a race at 100%. I've seen time and time again, many people that work with athletes make a critical mistake of not focusing on walking gait. This is especially true in the post-surgical population. The absence of pain and just eyeballing somebody's walking mechanics isn't good enough. What if that patient never recovers full terminal knee extension, is slowly stressing the patellofemoral joint? When they do return to running, jumping, or cutting, their body will already be worn down from the stress of regular walking. The same goes for non-operative. What happens to the person that sprains their ankle? They change their gait, they start returning to play, and they wind up injured. You could give that ankle sprain athlete the best range of motion, strength, and even running form in the world, but if you don't restore that normal walking mechanics, they could be an injury waiting to happen. As I was preparing for this podcast, I was looking around and seeing what other people were saying about it and just what the importance of it. And unfortunately, I saw a lot of people saying that running is like a faster version of walking. But that's really not true. There's some big differences between the two. But that doesn't mean that we can't get a lot of great information about an athlete and their running form by looking at the way that they walk. No matter who I'm working with, I want to try to understand their whole story, that I can really identify the root cause of their issues. So here's some of the big differences between walking and running, and this is by no means exhaustive. This could be a whole episode itself where we could really dive deep into some of this. But just by definition, the difference between running and walking is that running has a period of float, and walking has periods where both feet are on the ground at the same time. That's basic definition here. When we start to think about what goes into successfully running or successfully walking, we start to see some other differences. And I want to focus on one particular area. Again, this isn't an exhaustive list, but running relies on our elastic properties to be efficient. When we run, we try to have a low time spent on the ground so that we can take advantage of some of those elastic properties, because our body is capable of returning up to 95% of the energy we absorb in the first part of our time on the ground during running stance as we progress through the stance phase. So that plays a big factor into what muscles we're using, the positions that we're in, the amount of excursion that we go through for range of motion, flexibility, those types of things. That's really important to understand as a big difference, that elasticity is a critical aspect for running. With walking, we depend on utilizing ground reaction forces to reduce the active demand of walking because we don't get the same amount of elastic return as running. So because we're on the ground for a lot longer, some of that elastic return is dampened. And then we are using muscles in different patterns. We're going through different amounts of excursion. And even some of the timing of things is different because we're not using some of those elastic properties. For example, with walking, we rely on the quadriceps and hamstrings to progress the body forward as we go from loading response, which ends when our foot is flat on the ground, to mid stance. An athlete that has weakness in the quadriceps and glutes may display changes in their walking mechanics to compensate for these weaknesses. Correcting this with gait retraining may contribute to improved utilization of the glutes and quadriceps that can assist them when they're doing other activities like running and sprinting mechanics, if you then train them to use that. So there's a big caveat there that we can't expect. Again, I want people to truly understand this, that we are not saying that you can just change their walking and expect their running to change. But what we're saying is that by utilizing, optimizing their walking analysis, we can get advantages that make a big difference when they are participating in other higher level activities. If you never looked at the walking in the first place, you really could have missed a great opportunity to make improvements with each and every step. That's why Walking Gait is such a valuable tool. It's a low impact way to assess movement patterns and joint health without the intensity and potential wear and tear of running. So far before somebody's necessarily ready to get back to running, this makes it really useful to evaluate running for preventing injuries before they happen. And I think it really should be done early and often. And this is something in my practice, we are looking at walking often. And now we're even looking at it with a finer tooth comb and seeing great results as a result of incorporating that into our plan of care. So we can't, unfortunately, just stand back and watch somebody walk, though. Gait is a very intricate balance of strength, mobility, and technique that needs to have objective data. Luckily, technology has come a long way in helping to better understand the gait mechanics. At RunDNA, we have tools like the Helix 3D, which does give us a very detailed, objective look at an athlete's walking gait. We get real-time data and can pinpoint exactly where the inefficiencies or asymmetries are, and then create a plan to address it with immediate results. We can incorporate strengthening exercises, mobility, or even just slight adjustments to their technique. With the addition of our walking score, we're also able to quantify the amount of improvement that athletes are making, which is both helpful for us to see how they're progressing, but also it's very motivating for the athletes to be able to understand exactly how they're progressing as well and if their efforts are producing results. The best part, we can make these athletes before the changes. We can make these changes before the athlete even hits the field or track. It's a proactive approach to performance optimization and injury prevention well before they can even take their first step running. So this season on the RunDNA podcast, we're going to spend time talking about common walking gait or abnormalities and how this can impact overall function. Things like terminal knee extension, asymmetry, spatiotemporal characteristics, and more. Correcting these imbalances in walking when the stakes are low makes a huge difference when the athlete starts performing at higher intensities. So there you have it. Walking gait might seem like a small piece of the puzzle, but it's actually one of the most important elements to get right if you want to optimize athletic performance and avoid injuries. If you're an athlete or if you work with athletes, I really encourage you to start paying attention to walking. It could be the key to unlocking the next level of performance and results, both for you and for your athletes. So if you want to learn more, please subscribe to this podcast. If you're looking to accelerate your expertise, check out the Certified Walking Gait Analyst course at RunDNA.com. But please let us know if you have any comments or thoughts about things you'd like to learn. We'd love to hear if you're utilizing walking gait with your athletes and how you've incorporated this in. I think it's a missing piece of the puzzle that it's the most functional thing most of our athletes do on a daily basis. And if we're not looking at it, we really could be missing out. So thanks for tuning in and always wishing you a happy and healthy life. And we'll see you next time on the RunDNA podcast.
Like what you hear? Leave a review of the show wherever you listen. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. RunDNA helps runners and running specialists through education and technology to identify each runner's unique injury profile to avoid setbacks and maximize results. The RunDNA podcast is produced by Ace Running LLC. The RunDNA podcast is intended for educational purposes only. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can occur. Always seek the guidance of qualified medical professionals before making healthcare decisions. Find us online at RunDNA.com.